Chris Lenois back with you on the Green Mountain Mornings program at 16 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. Have to keep reminding myself it's Tuesday after having Labor Day off from the program and returning now here on Tuesday, September the 6th. And thank goodness Chris Mays of the Brattleboro Reformer is in the studio with me, because that's always a reminder that it's Tuesday when I see somebody from the Reformer. Good to see you, Chris.
You too.
Did that mess you up that it was Tuesday and you're coming in, or you pretty much worked all weekend? So
no, I sent you an email yesterday to make sure you remembered, because I've been working a regular schedule Sunday and Monday. So
thank you very much for that reminder. And it's a very busy Tuesday for you, not only coming here on the program, it's a select board meeting night.
Right.
And then in between that is a meeting this morning, two separate meetings about the same issue, right? Windham Solid Waste Management District having a meeting 11 o'clock this morning. And then let me look at your article in the paper, 7 p.m. tonight. So you're going to the 11 o'clock one, obviously, because you'll get the select board meeting. Talk a little bit about what the agenda is for that.
So they're building a 5 megawatt solar array on the closed and capped landfill over there. It's in Brattleboro, and the idea is to get as many towns involved in taking some of the net metering credits. And Brattleboro is going to meet with them at 2 p.m. because they could be the biggest off-taker in the project, and they've had a deal with another company that they're not sure how that's going to pan out now. There's some legal issues with.
Yeah, there's the legal issues with one company that they first contracted with. I can't remember if did it go bankrupt, or they just sold the project to this Chinese company, Sky Solar, right?
No, it was to Nexsun.
To Nexsun, okay.
Yeah.
And now the project itself, is that something that's happening regardless of other things, or are we still in a situation where we don't even know if we're going to have a solar array on that landfill on Old Ferry Road?
Oh, well, the landfill is still going forward. That's a separate thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So tell me the difference here, because I'm not following the difference.
The Nexsun project is off-site. I'm not sure. I don't think it's even in Brattleboro, but they couldn't agree to a contract when the new owner came in, Nexsun, and so it's in litigation now, I believe, and they're not sure how it's going to pan out yet.
Okay. And so today's meeting, specifically with Brattleboro and their participation in the net metering?
Yeah, with the Windham Solid Waste
With
Management.
Windham Solid Waste. And they were going to have separate meetings with each of the different communities that might buy into this solar program?
No, the one with Brattleboro was just because they could potentially be the biggest off-taker in the project, and also because their town attorney, Bob Fisher, is also the town attorney for several other towns, and they're all going to come to the same agreement. The other towns are invited to come to the other sessions to see what the interest is, and then the district plans on going to select board meetings to discuss it individually if there is some interest.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't a town participate in this? Everything I've heard about it, read about it in your articles, it seems like a big cost savings for the towns. Yeah,
at least from what I understand, the first 10 years are a definite savings. So the other 10 years, you're kind of taking a chance. The other option is to see if there's a better deal out there.
A better deal than the one that Windham Solid Waste could offer?
Yeah.
Okay, so like if somebody else came in and built an array and contracted with them versus WSWMD.
But the catch side of that is with the new net metering rules, those projects are going to be few and far between.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about that aspect of it because they extended the old net metering law, I believe not this previous session, but the one before that, the state legislature, and they're working on a new net metering criteria, which I don't think will go into effect until next year. So is that part of the discussion today, or is that part of even the consideration?
I think it will be. I think it's really going to play a big role in how these towns decide whether or not to go with solar.
Yeah, I would think so as well. They've got to see what's in it for them. Will anybody from the legislature be in attendance at these meetings? Do we know? Or are they part of the presenters?
No, I think it's the builder. They're from Burlington, Encore Renewables, and I think they're going to be making the presentation because even the district officials, I don't think they know all the details behind it yet because it gets complicated.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that for sure.
So the reason they're having the two meetings is basically to allow people with different schedules. If you go to the 11 o'clock meeting, you don't need to go to the 7 o'clock or vice versa if people are curious about this.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there a chance that the project itself changes? Is there a chance, or is that part of it pretty much set in stone in terms of how many solar panels, how much energy is generated from it, those sorts of details? Have those all been worked out at this point?
Well, the project was included in Act 99, which is a law about net metering credits, and it's supposed to be a pilot project to see whether something like this can be done in other communities. They still have to get their certificate of public good from the Public Service Board, but I think they kind of have a set idea about what it's going to be like.
And that's Windham Solid Waste that would have to go through that permitting process. Or is it the solar installer?
Well, the company out of Burlington is going to be doing the whole process, going through the permitting, but I think it's under the Windham Solid Waste Management name.
Yeah, that's whose responsibility is it ultimately? The property owner or the manufacturer and installer of the solar panels, or is it done jointly? I'm trying to remember, and I don't know if you were covering the Winstanley installation that went up on I-91, but it seemed to me that Winstanley were the people who were responsible for all the permitting, but maybe it's because it was a different landowner.
Well, Sky Solar owns the lease to the landfill land.
Okay. So Windham Solid Waste, did they have to sell them that lease?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, and so what is the benefit for Windham Solid Waste to go through this process?
Well, for anyone who's going to be part of the project, if they spend $100,000 annually on electric, they could save somewhere close to $600,000 over 20 years.
Yeah, that's pretty good savings. And they're going to try and have every single town in the district take advantage of this. How many different communities are part of the Windham Solid Waste Management District?
There's 19 members.
19 members. That's a good amount. And no decisions made. This is just an informational meeting. It's not like this leads to a specific vote or anything.
It's to get the ball rolling. I think they want the contract signed by the end of November.
Right on. We're talking with Chris Mays of the Brattleboro Reformer. That had to do with a story from which day did you write this in? Last Thursday's edition of the Brattleboro Reformer. He'll be reporting on the results of that meeting in future editions of the Reformer. Lots of other news to cover with Chris when we come back after the bottom of the hour news break here on Green Mountain Mornings. 65 degrees outside at 21 minutes before the 9 o'clock hour. Chris Lenois, your host of the Green Mountain Mornings program, continuing our conversation with Chris Mays, reporter for the Brattleboro Reformer, your hometown daily newspaper, online at reformer.com. Story in today's print edition, as well as online at reformer.com, that Chris, when he was working over the weekend, went downtown and checked out the Tiny House Festival that took place. And I was saying earlier, I was downtown on Sunday running some errands, and pretty good turnout for this festival down there on Flat Street.
Yeah, it was a pretty good turnout, and I was also amazed at how much interest there was in the different topics being discussed. Lots of questions, and people were genuinely interested in each topic that came up.
So how was that? Like I said, I just walked by Flat Street, and I saw people in line to check out each of these different tiny houses that were out there. Were the presentations right there at each of the different house stops?
Well, I think the people in front of the houses would tell you about it a little bit, but inside a tent, they were having little sessions, question and answer, presentations about downsizing, about zoning, all types of different stuff.
Yeah, did you get a chance to talk to any of the attendees to the festival as to why they were there and what their interest was in the tiny houses?
No, but I heard from a lot of them in their questions, and it mostly seemed to be around downsizing and just. Yeah.
Because I know people in this community who have built tiny houses as an income stream, right? They've converted their garages into these tiny houses, and contract nurses or whoever come into the community, they can rent it out very comfortably. It seemed to me that everything that was there was less about retrofitting and more about building a new tiny house structure.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you spoke to one of the organizers, Lisa Kuhneman, about it. Talk a little bit about what her vision was for this festival.
Yeah, she wanted to talk about how housing can be explored because she's thinking about retirement. So she's thinking, how can I live in a affordable and in an affordable way in the future.
Right. And so, how many different vendors did they have at this? Did they bring in a lot of vendors from a lot of different communities, or who all was there?
There was the Green Mountain College had this tiny house. It was called an optimal traveling independent. I forget the last word, but it looked like a time machine, to be honest. It had a really cool design, and I understand a lot of people from that college are interested in this. Actually, the Jamaica Cottage Shop owner graduated from Green Mountain College.
Okay.
And then Yellow Barn, the Chamber Music Center in Putney, they had their own music hall, which was a music venue on wheels.
Yep. The bus that they've converted.
Yeah.
And then I saw also, I had spoken to Julie Lineberger of the Wheel Pad group, and there seemed to be a really long line at that one. Did you get a chance to walk through it?
Yeah, I did. I was really interested in that. That's a 200 square foot eco-friendly structure that you can attach to a house.
Right, and it's accessible. So it makes if you have accessibility issues, it makes that part of it at least accessible. Is there like a full kitchen and bathroom in there, or what's in that?
Yeah, the bathroom is there's no step. You don't have to step over anything, and there is a bedroom and a little kitchen.
Yeah. So they didn't have numbers as to who turned out for this, but they had some pretty good indicators that it was a success that you wrote about in your story.
Yeah. Apparently, Brattleboro closed down because they were so overwhelmed, and Fireworks had a 45-minute wait at one point.
That's great. I mean, that was the goal of this, was to have some downtown businesses stimulated. Yeah. Is it something that they see becoming an annual thing? Did they think Labor Day was the right day to do this?
I asked about that, and Lisa said, we don't know yet. So
okay.
Guess, yeah.
So they didn't have any kind of plan beyond doing it this one time?
No.
Okay. Well, it seemed to be a success. I mean, it wasn't...
Not yet, at least.
Right. But they didn't, they didn't charge admission to this. There was no money for attending it, or any of the breakout sessions or anything. Were there charges for that?
Yeah, there were crowdfunding options to participate in different workshops, designing and building and different types of workshops that were outside of the Flat Street Festival.
Right. So you took some photos there, Chris Ratter having the time off, so it was up to you to do the photography as well as reporting the story. Is that common? Do you do a lot of your own photography?
Not usually, just on Sunday events and stuff where Chris absolutely can't make it.
Right. So some photos along with this story in today's Brattleboro Former. I know that BCTV was there filming as well, so probably some footage for that coming online as well.
Yeah.
Another story that you had, kind of shifting gears here to the crime beat. And you had a story last week about somebody being sentenced, Nicholas Rayom. And this was an event that was pretty serious at the time it happened.
Yeah. On Canal Street, Nicholas got into a fight with another man, and he took out a knife, and police say he put it up to his neck, and he also cut the guy's finger. Yeah,
and this was we've heard of a number of these incidents on Canal Street, and it's hard to keep track of which ones are which at times. Yeah. I'm sure it is for you as well. How long ago was this one?
I don't know. It was in August
of last year, or maybe even 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, was that? Yeah. Did it seem like an abnormally long period of time before we got to the sentencing aspect of this one? It felt a little longer, and I didn't know if they talked about that at all in the court proceedings.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he's been sentenced now.
No, he was just arraigned.
Oh, that was just the arraignment.
Yeah.
Oh. This is a new. I thought it was.
This is new. I was confused. For
my mistake. See, that again shows how many issues are. Where was there was a knife pulled outside of the Domino's. A guy robbed the Domino's.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was this incident, but this
that
is
was
a different
several
one.
months ago. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a new incident.
Yeah.
My mistake. See, that just goes to show.
Yeah, when you said sentencing, I was like, wait
a minute.
He was just arraigned,
What
yeah.
did I miss there? Okay.
But the other element to this whole thing is he's being charged with unlawful trespass and unlawful restraint because later in the night, police found him in a residence. He broke into a woman's room and then he wouldn't leave, and he kind of made a threatening comment that he didn't care about going back to jail and this and that. So
see, this is exactly, well, it's a parallel. The guy who held up the dominoes with a knife then broke into somebody's house later that night with the knife, if I'm remembering that incident correctly.
Yeah,
So,
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally mixed those two stories together. My apologies to all the people affiliated in both of those crimes, I guess. Let's just shift gears again, shall we? Tonight, you're going to be at the Brattleboro Select Board meeting.
Yeah.
They've had the police fire facility stuff on the agenda each and every meeting, but tonight is a little bit different. Tonight, they're going to be unveiling the plans for the police station.
Yeah, it will be interesting because we're going to be sharing that building with them.
You're going to see where your office is getting moved to?
Yeah.
Do you have a sense, have they talked about it at all in the Brattleboro Reformer building to the employees as far as how this is progressing?
I think there's an idea of how the building might be partitioned off and where we might be entering and how separate of a thing it will be. But I'm not sure that anyone knows for sure how it will be, obviously.
Right. Well, they have to have the plans. The plans have to get approved. The whole thing that they've already gone through with the West Brattleboro Fire Station and the Central Fire Station, and they've taken each of these in turn. Last I had heard, Peter Elwell, the town manager, was getting some feedback from the state about additional testing because of some of the ink in the water and the wastewater out there. Is there an update on that? Do we know anything further?
Not yet. There might be something tonight.
Might be something there tonight for that particular meeting. All right. Well, Chris Mays, I know you've got a busy day ahead of you. Appreciate you starting off here this morning. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Reformer.com is the online home for your hometown daily newspaper. We'll be back to wrap up this edition of Green Mountain Mornings right after these messages.